Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. We're so glad that you're here with us today. Let's begin our program with Song and Pledge from Joseph Bias, followed by guest introductions from DJ Morrow Ingram.
Hello, my name is Joseph. For those of you, I said that not for applause, but because I haven't been able to be here very often. But I'm here today, and I'm really excited about joining with you. So let us, as an honor to Flag Day, sing "You're a Grand Old Flag." You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in truth may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, and there's never a boast or brag. And should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on that grand old flag. Now that we've rehearsed, you're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. And should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on that grand old flag. Let us join now in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you may be seated.
Good afternoon. We have a lot of wonderful guests today, so please bear with me. I will do my best not to crucify your name, and if I do, it's because your handwriting is horrible. Wow. So when I call your name and your host Rotarian, please stand and let's hold applause until all have been introduced. So I have Imani Jennings, who is the guest of Kiden Creekbaum. I have Philip Moran, who is the guest of Joe Moran. He's with U.S. Pioneer. Frank Sawyer with Select Outdoor Solutions, the guest of Mary Beth Sawyer. Judge Tom Thornbrew, who is the guest of Richard Holmes. Michael Labs, who is the guest of Russ Ivory. He's with Wiggins Properties. Mary Waddell, the guest of Duff Waddell. Jody Dean, the guest of Tommy Lynn. We have Patty Colwell with us. Hey, Patty. So glad to have you here. And Matt Colwell is guest of Linda Bradshaw. Matt's with Vertical Aerospace. Judy Elliott, the guest of Charles Edward, his wife. Alan Wayland brought his wife Beverly Wayland. T.S. Scoggins, who's with Thrive PEO, is the guest of Case Anderson. Ken Murray, a business owner, a former member, and I think it says California, is here with us. Julian Wilson with Benefits Broker, guest of Case Anderson. Margaret Butler Disney, a guest of Laura Butler. Don Dendas, a guest of Medi. Diana Denny with Tulsa Chamber of Music, a guest of President Tiffany Egdorf. Karen Day with Lifegate Freedom Recovery Ministries, a guest of Rachel Richardson. Sue Day, also with Lifegate Freedom Recovery Ministries, also a guest of Rachel Richardson. Leslie Klingenbiel with The Spring, a guest of Brian Jackson. And we have Carol Whitehill and Ross Swimmer. Congratulations, they just got married. Guest of Philip Viles. So please, thank you for coming, and let's all give them a big round of applause. We do have a few visiting Rotarians, and as I call their name, we will do our traditional hi with their first name. Steve Barnes with Broken Arrow. Hi, Steve. Mike Carter, the city manager of Sand Springs, guest of Brian Jackson. Hi, Mike. Harlan Pinkerton with Sand Springs. I can't see what it says there. Billy Jackson, guest of Bill of Southside. Hi, Billy. And Tricia Kirkstra, former member of ours. Hi, Tricia. Thank you all for being here with us. We hope you come back and join us again.
Thank you, Joseph and DJ, for stepping up in the leadership today. And I would just love to think that all of these visitors are here for me today, but I know that's not true. So I just want to quick shout out, thank you to our AG, Gentner Drummond, for being here, because I know that's why you all are here today. And we're excited to hear from you in just a few minutes. First, we would like to share that we're dedicating our program today in memory of James G. Sade. Jimmy was born in Wirt, Oklahoma on June 14, 1915. He was a graduate of Maud High School and received his college degree from East Central University in Ada. After graduating, Jimmy took jobs teaching and conducting high school bands. On Valentine's Day 1943, he married his sweetheart, Helen Lou Ricker. Jimmy served in the United States Army during World War II and was decorated for his service in the Battle of the Bulge. After the war in 1946, he founded Sade Music Company and built a successful business promoting school music programs throughout northeastern Oklahoma. In 1967, he joined the Rotary Club of Tulsa. Soon after joining, Jimmy founded and directed the Rotary Men of Note. They made hundreds of appearances and performed at numerous district conferences, including Rotary International Conventions in San Francisco, Montreal, Houston, Kansas City, Chicago, Salt Lake City, and Dallas. Jimmy served as club president in 1976 and 77, and during that year, he suggested that the board that a special award was needed to honor those Rotarians who exhibited unusually high, outstanding service to the club, and the board agreed. This prestigious award is the highest honor accorded to a member of the Rotary Club of Tulsa. It was derived from Rotary's motto, service above self, and then some. In 47 years, the award has been presented 22 times to club members and twice to Rotary International presidents during their visit. Following Jimmy's death, the board voted to rename the award in his honor the James G. Sade Service Above Self and Then Some Award. Jimmy had a great love for the United States of America, as was evidenced by his leadership in founding our Camp Enterprise to teach the principles of our free enterprise system to Tulsa area high school students. In 1987, Jimmy spearheaded a successful effort in lobbying and testifying before Congress to have John Philip Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever recognized as the national march of the United States of America. Jimmy portrayed John Philip Sousa in over 60 concerts in 27 states. 2 of these concerts were fundraisers for our club, one of which was held at the Mabee Center and was our largest fundraiser up to that time. His last portrayal of Sousa was at our 2004 IBA Awards banquet. And ironically, that was Flag Day and Jimmy's birthday. So please turn your attention to the screen for a special tribute to James G. Sade and to all the Rotarians who have received this prestigious award named in his honor. Isn't that wonderful? And as I watched that, I only knew and know some of those folks that have been recognized over the years, but what I do know, I know their names, and I know that they have started so many of the long-lasting programs that this club still observes today. So truly, service above self and then some. I would like to recognize the James G. Sade Service Above Self recipients that are here with us today. So please stand when I call your name, and if we could hold our applause to the end, that would be great. Chuck Wilson, Linda Bradshaw, Joseph Bias, David Peterson, if he made it today, and John Raines. Let's recognize these folks for their service to Rotary. Also with us today is Margaret Butler and Laura Butler, Ron's widow and daughter, and Patty Colwell and Matt Colwell, Tim's widow and son. Thank you all for being here. Ron and Tim are dearly missed, and their legacy lives on through their family and the many lives they have touched and enriched. So before I introduce our Rotarian of the day and get on to why you guys are really here today, other than recognizing these wonderful Rotarians that have served our club for so many years, I would like to say something about our guest speaker today. So back in 2011, I was returning back to Tulsa, back home, from living in Nashville for a bit, and I interviewed for a job with a brand new nonprofit called Lindsay House. And one of the coolest, and at the time, most intimidating women I have ever met sat across that interview table from me, and her name was Wendy Drummond. And from the moment I became a part of the Lindsay House team, and since then, both Wendy and Gettner Drummond have encouraged me, supported me, and set stellar examples of how to be eminently qualified humans. Gettner, thank you, and Wendy, for being who you are. You are an example to many, and we are blessed by your leadership. All right. And our Rotarian of the day is certainly no stranger to you all here today, Brian Jackson. Brian has been a Rotarian since 2006, living a life of service above self from the beginning. He has served in many roles within Rotary, most recently and notably as your Sergeant at Arms this year. He is passionate about educating and empowering youth, both through his work at Junior Achievement and in other involvements. Brian is an active Mason and Shriner, bringing joy and hope to people all over Green Country as a Shriner clown. He also serves the citizens of Sand Springs as a city councilor. His positive demeanor and outgoing personality, combined with his genuine love of others, creates a perfect storm of goodness in the world, which impacts all who interact with him. Brian's beautiful daughter Bella is the light of his life, and she, I believe, is a Rotarian in waiting. Brian, I am honored to call you a colleague and a friend. Our Rotarian of the day, Brian Jackson.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Tiffany. I would like to take this personal opportunity to wish my father, Billy Jackson, a Rotarian, Eagle Scout, and Army veteran, a happy Father's Day. I love you, Dad. Speaking of quality fathers, I have the honor of introducing Gettner Drummond, who was sworn in as Oklahoma's 19th Attorney General on January 9th, 2023. For me, Gettner is a man of integrity, honor, and willingness to do what is right by the rule of law. I overheard him say that when he was a boy, his grandfather said, "Gettner, one day you will have the opportunity to serve the people, and I encourage you to do it." Gettner has the will to continue to serve, from distinguished service in our U.S. Air Force to serving today as our top Oklahoma law enforcement officer. He and his wife, Wendy, have been married for 13 years and have a blended family of 6 children and now 6 grandchildren. The newest one's right there as of this past Easter. Please join me in welcoming my friend and our Oklahoma Attorney General, Gettner Drummond.
It's a delight to be back. The last time I was in front of you, I was sharing a podium and we were debating. So much nicer to be on this side of the thing. And I have to, as I look at her, I recognize, I know there's several, but I recognize 2 judges that had a profound impact on me. Judge Peterson, Judge Thornbrew, you guys just didn't try hard enough. You should have tried a little bit harder to make me a little bit better. But we have remarkable jurists in Tulsa County and a remarkable business community represented by the Rotarians in this room. Thank you for your service to our community. Your impact is significant, far-reaching, and exemplary. I was speaking to the Rotarians in Oklahoma City a few months ago, and they were bragging and boasting, but I reminded them that, really they're just following in the wake of Tulsa. And, well, I didn't get any applause, but I appreciate the acknowledgement. So I'm a man of 60, so I don't have a lot of time to dither. So I count down my time in office in weeks, and it drives Wendy crazy. Madeline, who I have to acknowledge, Madeline, who's the son of my newest grandson, Lane, is here. I'm sorry. Mother. My daughter, Madeline's son, Lane. I'm sorry. Thank you. They just become interchangeable at some part. But, I have 134 weeks left, and my staff recognized, they got the memo after I made it through the primary and knew that I was basically, by the way, I know this sounds political, it's really about, government and stuff like that, so indulge me, and I'm outside of a year, and I'm not breaking your laws. My background is law and business. When I was elected, I resigned from 7 companies in leadership and ownership with about 900 employees. And so to take on an agency at the time of 170 was not that challenging, but it was exciting because I took it and I restructured it in a way that a company, an agency, an organization should be run, very structured along military lines because that's how my DNA was formed as a young pilot. And we are now 325 strong. So my legislative friends remind me that there are parameters on the Attorney General. There's this lane called Title 74, but I am exploiting every square inch of Title 74, so we're out there having fun. I also know this. I know that we will not agree on many things or all things, but I can promise you this, that the decisions that are made by your chief law officer in the state is one informed by and governed by the law. And so I stay inside that lane. And it may, I have colleagues who would like for me to push the corners, and sometimes I dog whistle left and right, but it's important to stay in there. The other thing I want to report on is so often, and I've been one who was involved in and supportive of elected and appointed officials all of my adult life, I was always disappointed when they would get elected and then they would go do things to get reelected. I really have absolutely no interest in doing anything in this office that would encourage you to vote for me again. That's not my motivation. As a matter of fact, I would hope that you would vote for me, notwithstanding your disagreement with me, just based on my behavior. But I do want to give you a report card which really impacts Tulsa, northeastern Oklahoma, and the state of Oklahoma, and even beyond our borders. When I was preparing for office, we had basically 3 big rocks that were troubling to me. One was, how are we, the people, voting for legalization of medical marijuana in 2018, what unintended consequences it had on our community, and I wanted to right that ship. The other one, I was very disappointed in the behavior of our state vis-a-vis the Native American tribes after the United States Supreme Court ruled on McGirt, and I want to report on that, and Hooper. And then I want to also talk about just generally a era of maybe mismanagement is too strong, or transparency in government, the lack thereof. But that's been a very strong penchant of mine particularly coming from the background of law that I've had these last 30 years. So just want to report on those, and we'll go from there. Now, a lot of you do know me, and you've known me for a long time. A few in the audience have worked for me and worked with me. Many have served in nonprofit agencies with me. Tiffany, thank you for the very elegant comments. I appreciate that. But I am one who wants to be informed on the law and apply the law, but I'm also unafraid to butt heads with those that would disagree with me on the law. And that heritage was born in Osage County, where I continue to claim as my home, although we have a little pied-à-terre in Tulsa. But the background of being raised in a ranching family, and it's so interesting today, present with us, Lane, is literally the 7th generation of Drummonds living in Osage County on a ranch that we call the Drummond East Ranch. And to do that now, 7 generations, takes some stubbornness, hard-headedness, and blessings from the Almighty. And I'm a beneficiary of all of that, so I don't want to claim anything beyond that. As it relates to the impact of the medical marijuana passage, what we did as a body politic is we went to those industry leaders in other states and said, if you had to redo it again, how would you do it? And they said, this is how we do it. And so we did it. That's exactly how we laid out our rules and regulations. The problem is those men and women were interested in following the law, but what happened is the porosity of our rules permitted truly an invasion of Oklahoma by unsavory individuals from mainland China and the Sinaloa coast. We have now over 17 active organized criminal organizations from Central America, Bulgaria, Russia, Cuba, the eastern nations, principally China, in Oklahoma. And recognizing that and how we could combat it, I besieged the legislature, and they funded an organized crime task force, which now I'm very proud to say is self-funding. Because what we have done, when I took office, we had just over 12,000 growing facilities of medical marijuana in the state of Oklahoma. If you take the 3 largest legal grow operations in Oklahoma, they provide enough cannabis for every medical card holder to consume 7 items of marijuana a day, 7 days a week. 12,000, 3. Okay, you get the delta. So and I recruited some bad dudes. I mean, some unafraid dudes, not bad dudes, good dudes that are bad. You don't want to meet them in the dark corner. So I have a couple of Navy SEAL dudes working for me. I've got several from the FBI, ATF, Homeland Security, some homegrown deputy sheriffs. I mean, some just remarkable agents, remarkable analysts, people that look very much like us that are fluent in Mandarin, which is very important, and a fleet of lawyers that are committed to the rule of law. So we have attacked the industry. And we are now at just over 2,600 grow facilities in Oklahoma, 12,000 to 2,600 in the scope of 15 months. We're shutting down. Thank you. Either by brute force, in partnership with OSBI or Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority or Oklahoma Narcotics Bureau, or by reputation, we're shutting down 10 grows a day. They are leaving our state. Now, it's sad that they are leaving our state. It's good for us. I have colleagues in New Mexico and in Maine. That's where they're going, so we track them. There's one guy in the state of Oklahoma who can tap your phone. You're looking at him. I don't recognize any of you that I've tapped lately, but, be on guard. So it's remarkable the technology that, in partnership with the federal government, principally Homeland Security, they have lots of toys. They get points by deploying those toys, and I like their toys. So we have lots of toys, and we deploy them, and it's remarkable what we have going on in the state of Oklahoma. So we're not content anymore with just shutting down that grow. We want to observe and find all of the ancillary parts of that grow so that we can not just take the head of the snake, but go to the den and shut it down. And you are part of that. So we have a tip line I don't have it written down anywhere, but it's oklahoma.oag/gov. You can go to that site. Just type in Oklahoma Attorney General and you'll find the website and you can tap it. But what has happened is people in the communities are now going to that anonymous website, tapping it, giving us detail anonymously. Every one of those is assigned a case number, and my agents report to me every week, every Tuesday at 1:30. I'm given a report on the status of those. And we go out with human intelligence and electronic gathering information, and we find these guys and we take them down. Let me give you one for instance. December 4th of 23, we were given an anonymous tip. And we followed up on it exactly as I've mentioned, and we concluded, in fact, this was an illegal grow. Sometimes we subpoena regulatory or utility colleagues' records so we can see the spikes and the use of electricity. And we put a surveillance team on, and we saw a van leave that we suspected probably had marijuana. This was in Cherokee County, crossed into Wagner County where we stopped it. Surely enough, illegal grow material there, guns, cash, the like, guys with driver's license from Sinaloa. We make the arrest, we detain that, we have information, now probable cause to go into the site outside of Tahlequah. We go and bust that with a whole bunch of agents with lots of guns, and we detain the bad guys, and we get records there. We have one of those toys I was talking about, Homeland Security. I can walk up to Brian, take his phone, plug it in, 10 seconds later, give it back to him, and have everything on his phone. And I can now, with that data, understand where I can go to find the next guy. And we found it, that the kingpin was in a safe house in a gated community in Bixby. Market value at the county is $560,000. So we saw the illegal guys in Wagner County, the sophisticated grow facility in Cherokee County, and the kingpin in South Tulsa County. That came from a citizen complaint, a tip line. So don't be bashful about doing that for us. Equip us so that we can go do the right thing. I was, several months ago, called up the Department of Justice, and the Attorney General kind of was chastising me. He's like, you Oklahomans have lost your mind. 50% of the marijuana consumed in New York City is grown in Oklahoma. I said, please don't tell our governor. He'll say we're a top 10 state. We don't need that. But I said, J.G. Garland, you could be helping me out a little bit here with the, kind of slow down the flow through the border. So we've intercepted a lot of communication from mainland China, and I'm spending more time on this than I should, but it's fascinating. So they recruit their impoverished rural people, literally, with emails to the effect or social media, join our team, we'll give you transport to Mexico, transport from Mexico through the border to Oklahoma, reunite you with our people. You work for us 5 to 7 years, we will give you a green card, $10,000, and you have a new life in America. Why would you not join that team if you were living in poverty in mainland China? So there is a whole drove of illegals coming up through the border into Oklahoma, and we are doing our very best to repatriate them back to mainland China, and if they're violating the law, prosecute them. So it's a big lift, and we're going to continue that until we are down to the manageable number of legal grow facilities in Oklahoma. On the area of Native America and criminal justice, McGirt was passed, and it caused a lot of cacophony in Tulsa County, where you are the confluence of, Tulsa City is the confluence of the Muskogee Creeks principally, Cherokees on the north and the Osage on the northwest. The Osage's tribal jurisdiction was disestablished by the 10th Circuit 20 years ago, so they're not in play. But the Cherokees, the Chickasaws, Choctaws, Seminoles, and Muskogee Creeks all have jurisdictional integrity. Therefore, they have the right to prosecute their own people. And because, I don't know if any of you guys read Killers of the Flower Moon or watched the movie, we screwed it up in the 1920s. We screwed it up in North Tulsa by not valuing African-American lives, and we screwed it up in Osage County by not valuing, putting a premium or value of any value on the Native Americans. So we failed as Oklahoma to prosecute and defend Native America. The federal government came in, passed some laws that now have that right bestowed to the tribes. Now, run back in history to Oklahoma in 1907. We were nascent. We didn't have a developed law enforcement. We borrowed from two agencies, federal government and Arkansas. and the Arkansas law enforcement had jurisdiction over eastern Oklahoma until we could stand up our own law enforcement. And we do better than anybody else: investigate, prosecute, and incarcerate. We do that well, top 10, for sure. But what our Native American brothers and sisters haven't had the opportunity to stand that up. Now, the guys with the checkbook would say in Native America, hey, Drummond, why don't you turn the volume down on the governor, turn the volume up on partnership, and let's figure out how to work this out. Because those of you in law enforcement and in the judiciary know that the monies that we spend in our prison system, jails, courthouses, there is a zero return on investment, right? It's called society. We have to have them, but we don't get a return on investment. Whereas the Chickasaws and the Cherokees primarily enjoy about a 23 to 25% return on their investment. Each of those tribes netted $3 billion last year. They would rather go invest and get a 25% return than sink in courthouses and jails and prisons. And to do that, we have to work on a partnership. So I have met until I'm blue in the face with virtually every leader of Native America across Oklahoma, almost on a daily basis, have a communication with one of the leaders. And we have all directed our efforts to a little county around Miami, Oklahoma called Ottawa County. There are 9 tribes from the Northwest, Upper Midwest, and Northeast that were stuck in Ottawa County with very small jurisdiction, very small reservations. But all 9 of those will ultimately be adjudicated to have integrity in their territories. So 1 district attorney, 1 district judge, 1 associate district judge, 1 special judge, 1 sheriff, 1 chief of police, 9 tribes. And we have been working aggressively for the last 15 months on how do we partner state and tribe in criminal justice. And we are very near an agreement whereby our judges and prosecutors will act on behalf of the tribes when prosecuting a Native American and on behalf of the state when not. It'll take some legislative passage that I'm warming those skillets right now. And what will happen is we'll get to be force augmented with our Native American partners. You know, I hear complaints from some that go, you know, we've got the feds and the state and the county and the city. Yes, we've been doing that brilliantly for 120 years. Now let's add in another partner called Light Horse or the Marshal Service of the Cherokees into that mix where we communicate and collaborate and work together, such that if somebody's breaking the law, it doesn't matter who you're affiliated with. I would dare say a federal marshal watching you break the law would stop you just as quickly as a highway patrolman, as quickly as a deputy sheriff, as quickly as a Light Horse or a Marshal Service would. And then we sort out who you are, and then we put you in the right jurisdiction, and we prosecute you. And then instead of taking the Native American family and separating them to Kansas or Texas, because that's where felons go in Oklahoma when you're adjudicated guilty. You don't go to Oklahoma. Now we're separating Native American families, and I look forward to a day when our chief executive works with our prison chief and works with our Native American partners to put Native American felons in Oklahoma prisons so that the family can stay united. So those are some big lifts, and there's a lot going on there. But I'm very gratified with the partnership that I have around the table with the Native American tribal representation, and we're going to get there. So I want to pivot now to transparency in government. It's important to me. I have, as I mentioned, been the owner and overseer of lots of companies, and when I have openness and transparency inside my companies, there's a less of an opportunity for embezzlement and malfeasance and misappropriation and bad behavior, right? Transparency breeds accountability. But we in Oklahoma have developed this culture, and I cannot tell you for how long, my observation is about 6 years, where we have a culture of, that was not a pun or a poke, it's just an observation. Just an observation, you're reading into me, where we don't account. And so for example, when I took office, we had 68 open records requests of the Attorney General's office. I mean, let's let the people see what we're doing. If it's an active investigation, you don't get it. But if it's me talking badly about, the superintendent of public education, and you want it, you can have it. If I hit send, it's yours. I'm a public servant. So we've worked through those, and we have now produced, my clerk that's in charge of that says, Gettner, we have produced 4 terabytes of data. Now, I couldn't tell you what that is. It just seems like a hell of a lot of documents. And some of them I've seen that are from me, and I'm kind of embarrassed, and my mother would be embarrassed, and I should really clean up my language in some of my internal emails, but, I learned. But that's what that does. So this transparency, this openness, the legislature, I beseeched last year to say, hey, let me have a public access officer. Because what was frustrating is I can be transparent in my office, but if the superintendent of public schools decides he doesn't want you to see anything, you have to sue him. And most of you guys are busy making money, raising families, serving your community. You don't have time to go hire Jeff Hassel to go sue, Ryan Walters, right? He's expensive, at least $200 an hour. And so, I said to let me do that. I'll sue these guys. I'm happy. Give me the authority. And so they created this office, and then we gave it to my good friend Kevin, and he vetoed it last year and this year, but maybe one of these days he'll let it slide through, and we'll have the ability to prosecute other state actors, elected and appointed, so that when you ask for records and they don't give them, I can go prosecute them and get it back. So we're working toward that, certainly. There's also been an element of corruption and scandal, not because people started out trying to do the wrong thing, they just didn't have the discipline to put guardrails on them. So we have things such as Epic. It delivered a remarkable online school platform, but they realized nobody at the state was paying attention to how they were accounting for their money. And so over the course of time, they moved millions of dollars into a private account. Now, as at least 2 judges in southern part of the state have admonished me, they are innocent until proven guilty. They are innocent until proven guilty. I've looked at the documents. They're going to spend several years in prison, but that's the way it should be. In Oklahoma, if you are connected politically, donate liberally, you can do almost anything you want to. Not under my watch. So the people that steal from the state will get to have free accommodations for a period of years, and they will pay back the money they stole from you. So we have that with Epic. We're in a big battle with Mr. Swadley. But again, this is an example of a man who washed an invoice, and our dear Lieutenant Governor approved without very quick approval process, about 3 minutes on average per email. And he realized nobody's looking, so he just washed a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and now all of a sudden it's several $1 million, and nobody cared. I care. So we're prosecuting that kind of behavior. And then when we get government dollars and we don't distribute those correctly, so if you've read media lately, we've been sitting on about $44 million in an account of opioid settlement funds that should be distributed to the non-litigating municipalities like Tulsa County and other counties and other cities and other school districts. And we finally, the legislature turned it loose, hey, Drummond, you have $22 million, go distribute it. So learning the lessons from Gear and Class Wallet and other missteps for whom I'm prosecuting and investigating, I've got some real mean people that sit around me when we're administering dollars to make us do it right. So we're very transparent. Only $11 million of the $11 million of applicants qualified, so I'm only giving out $11 million, but we're expanding the application to August, hopefully to get out the next balance of the money so that we can deploy those opioid funds rightly and correctly into the right hands that need it. So we're going to keep doing that. And then also part of my job is in the space of our 10th Amendment sovereignty rights in Oklahoma, I am a Republican. Now, I know that's a strange thing these days. The Republican Party I grew up with, believed in small government and not excessive taxation and basically let people do their thing, right? That's kind of the party that I knew. And, but not just Republican, but also Democratic national parties they know best. The analogy I offered my older granddaughter the other day when she asked about this, Democrat versus Republican. I said, the Democratic Party is kind of like a English garden. You plant the seeds, you don't tend it, it's just crazy. It's there, you look at, that was the Republican Party. It does its thing. Whereas a Democratic Party garden equivalent is straight hedgerows, just like a French garden. Everything's organized, got walls and stuff like that. But that's kind of how the two parties have always functioned, but they have a tendency to know better than Oklahoma. So we've had multiple occasions where the federal government has come in and said, for example, our ozone, the Environmental Protection Agency, we had to file a state implementation plan on how we keep our air pure. And I've read it, and it's an excellent plan. We submit it. They don't say, try again, or take this feedback. They say, canceled. Here's the federal implementation plan. We need to blend your good air with Texas's bad air so that region is better. So they want to suck our air down to Texas, and I'm saying, no, we want to keep it up here. We know how to do it better than Texas. We are pure. We're pure-hearted and pure-aired. That's an example. The poor lesser prairie chicken, which I used to shoot as a young boy up in the Osage, it's now migrated out to the west, and the federal government has decided that they know best. So if you are a farmer, rancher, or oil and gas operator in western Oklahoma, southwestern Kansas, northern Texas, and northeastern New Mexico, if this rule gets implemented, you have to tell the federal government how you're going to graze, where you're going to put your lead lines, and what you're going to put in the ground as your row crop for approval. Well, that's crazy. So, of course, those are the things that I get to push back on. And then lastly, the most recent and most spectacular thing that will happen is when we all lived through Storm Uri, the data that I have been given, the breadth of the AG's office and the ability to investigate and issue civil investigative demands where I can get your bank accounts without you knowing it and look at anything I need to look at. So we've really spent a lot of time and the entirety of my tenure in investigating how did Oklahoma get damaged and injured so acutely. And we've discovered data that illustrates that the weather guessers back in the fall said, hey, there's going to be a cataclysmic storm in the Midwest, plus or minus a month of mid-February. And as they got closer in time, they pinpointed closer and closer and closer to where they said, February 13th and 14th, all hell's going to break loose in Oklahoma. If you're a gas middle marketer, none of whom are in the room, truly, they figured that out, so they withheld supply. FERC, Federal Energy Regulation Commission, regulates interstate oil and gas. But once you get it into the state, you're no longer under FERC, you're under no man's land, you're unregulated. So they were getting the gas into Oklahoma and holding it. We had the act of God. Jeff has a contract with me, and Brian has a contract with Tom. And Brian says to Tom, act of God, I can't send you that gas. And Jeff asked for gas from me, and I go, act of God, I can't do it. But then Brian and I trade contracts, and I go, hey, Tom, I happen to have this gas at 2,000 MCF. Hey, Jeff, I've got this gas too. So they baited and switched us. And so we've got that data. I coincidentally just randomly picked Osage County as my jurisdiction, so we're suing these bad actors in Osage County. And it'll be a fight, but I think at the end of the day, we will get a recovery somewhere between $2 and $3 billion, which is impactful. It is impactful, and I'm very proud of that. It will be a shade tree that the next AG will get to rest under. I won't be here probably for that adjudication, but we've got it in place. And that's really my attitude, the 134 weeks that I have. My objective is to take what is very much like my grandfather taught me when I was a young boy on a big cattle ranch. If the day you believe this ranch is yours is the day you will probably lose it. You're a steward. You're coming to this land. You're on the shoulders of giants before you. You're going to take this land and improve it and pass it off and enjoy their success that you will never see. Similarly, in this role as Attorney General, my objective has been to stand up an agency for which you can be very proud that we are governed by the rule of law. We do not weaponize the office The temptation is there, but the brakes are around me to not weaponize it, so that we do the right thing. And that is the motto of the office. We do the right thing regardless of the cost. And that is how we go. And I'll close with a little story that kind of sums it up. Many of you have heard the story, but it's a great story, so I'm going to tell you again. So, I mean, I grew up in the Osage, had never flown, got recruited by the Air Force to go to flight school. I go to flight school, didn't know up from down, left from right. And all my classmates were engineers and masters of engineering. But it was a NATO training base, so I only had European trainers, and they were not engineers. They were men like me. And one heard that I grew up on a ranch. He said, hey, you'll fly a jet kind of like you fly a horse. You just listen to it. If you're buffering, lower your nose or add gas. If the wings are bending back, you're going too fast, slow down, type thing. It made sense. I just did it. So I graduated at the top of my class, got to fly the F-15. And I am now, I'm a baby pilot. And my first deployment, I'm in New York, and my flight lead has emergency. I've got gas, so I go down the river to the falls, and Niagara Falls, and I pop upside down and do a ridge crossing. I got caught, got grounded, got put on a Greyhound bus back to Florida. 3 years later, I'm in Las Vegas. I'm going to Las Vegas. My wingman has an emergency. I land. I give him my jet. He takes off. I take his, get it fixed. I take off. My gear won't come up. So I'm going slow across the Midwest, and I see the Grand Canyon. I go down to the Grand Canyon, fly below it. Thousands of photos of me show up at my airbase when I get there, grounded again. So I had a problem following rules, even back then. Well, now where the Gulf Wars happened, I'm a ripe age of 28. I am a very mature fighter pilot. Almost most of this part is connected now, but not all. And first night of the Gulf War, and I'm getting to lead this strike package of 64 fighter bombers, and we go to the southwest corner of Baghdad. And they deliver the bombs. We have encountered MiG-29s and pushed them out. Thousands of anti-aircraft artillery, scores of surface-to-air missiles. It was crazy, first night of the war. But I send my number 3 and 4 to lead out, and I stay on station until everybody's dropped their armament, and I follow them as a rear guard. And as I'm approaching about 100 miles from Saudi Arabia, I'm ordered to go back north to kill. And so I do exactly that. I wheel back around, point north, find the bad guy about 100 miles away. I'm at 34,000 feet, 1.4 Mach, 8 missiles. I'm King Kong. I mean, nobody can touch me. And he's at 1,000 feet and going slower than me. So his weapons engagement zone is low. Mine is huge. I can shoot at 50 miles. He dies at 25. He could shoot me at 10. I die at 5. I win. But as I'm running that intercept, it just didn't make sense. So I brake, look all the way around. Can't find anybody else. It's not a trick. I find him again, and I decide he has to be friendly. I'm going to run the intercept. I tell my wingman. He drops back 10 miles. Now I'm ordered to kill at 25 miles, and I disobey. Ordered again at 20, disobey. 18, disobey. I run the intercept. I was right. He was a good guy. Brought him home. Landed at the same air base. He was a Saudi Tornado pilot. Gave me a formal bow. He went east. I went west. As I pulled up on my chocks, military police were there to escort me in. The mission commander, the first mission, of course. Except they arrested me. Put me in handcuffs, took my rank off my shoulders. So I thought, this is not going well. And I'm taken into the ready room, and by the time I get there, that Saudi pilot has gone into his base operations and said, I don't know who that guy is, but he didn't kill me. He was ordered to kill me. I heard it, but he didn't shoot. And the word got up, and it came across to the U.S. side, and as I'm walking in handcuffs, a 3-star general comes out and says, take those handcuffs off. Give that boy a Distinguished Flying Cross. He didn't kill a Saudi prince. From then on, I was bulletproof. I mean, I could do anything in the war, but it was that, that's what steeled, that's how we teach our young people in this community to behave. You do the right thing, regardless of the cost. That's what we do in the Attorney General's office. We do the right thing, regardless of the cost. It is more likely than not why I will never be elected to another office, because I'm guilty of doing the right thing, regardless of the cost. But for these next 134 weeks, I can promise you this: you will get my very best. And for that, I'm indebted. Thank you.
Gettner, thank you so much for being here today. And again, for all that you do for our community. Something you said really resonated with me. When I first got into this role, I would argue maybe a much more minor role, being the president of the Rotary Club of Tulsa, though you all keep me on my toes, I'll give you that, than being our state's attorney general. Somebody asked me, what are you going to do in your year? What changes are you going to make? What are you going to do? And I said, you know what? I'm just a steward of this role for the next year. And it's my responsibility to not screw it up, but to hopefully leave it better than when I inherited it. So thank you for your approach to doing that. You're right. We have to set a good example and be good stewards of what we do in this world. So a book recognizing today's program will be presenting to our partner in education school, Celia Clinton, and appropriately, a book on John Philip Sousa today. Good. Upcoming programs. Can you all believe there are only 2 more weeks of this Rotary year? 2 more weeks of me up here, and then you get President Daniel. That'll probably be a nice change for you all. So next week, Pamela Stewart, our representative from Rotary International, will be with us. And remember, she's driving up from Louisiana. So let's give her a warm Oklahoma and Tulsa welcome and be here to hear her presentation next week. And then also on June 26th, we're going to have a patriotic program coupled with our end-of-year celebration and awards. Johnny Sherblank, a dear friend of mine and a lifelong Tulsan and patriot, will be here to deliver that message for us. Special thanks to our gold sponsors, We Be Trees, Tim Knoll, Max Electric Supply, Jack McGlumphy, Coldwell Banker Select, Sheree Gardner, Ken McConnell, CPA, and OK Ethics, Mary Lytle. And to this week's silver sponsors, J.D. Young, Doug Stewart, Moore Funeral Home, Joe Moore, Trust Company of Oklahoma, Michael Hairston. And to this week's bronze sponsors, Hearts for Hearing, Kaylee Clark, Interim Healthcare, Terry Heritage, John Crescent Allstate Agency, John Crescent, Lewis Roofing, Kevin Lewis, and Ken Freeman. Today's committee meeting will be the Golden Circle Gala Committee, meeting in room 231. I hope you all enjoyed today's meeting as much as I did. I hope you got to say hi and meet somebody new today. If not, there's still time on the way out, so be sure and do that. Thank you for joining our meeting today. Go, create hope in the world through service above self. We are adjourned.